Learning English without being in an English-speaking country seems impossible, right? Well, recent research shows that 78% of successful English learners achieved fluency without ever leaving their home country.
That's such a fascinating statistic. It really challenges the common belief that immersion means you have to relocate to an English speaking nation.
Exactly. And what's even more interesting is how these successful learners created their own immersion environments. A study from the University of Madrid found that learners who developed what they call micro immersion habits, like narrating their daily activities in English, showed 40% faster progress than traditional learners.
Hmm. Tell me more about these micro immersion habits. What makes them so effective?
Well, it's fascinating, actually. The research showed that these learners would spend an average of 2.5 hours per day in what they called English-only zones, whether physical or digital. For example, one participant in South Korea transformed her morning routine into an English-speaking show, complete with self-commentary and imaginary interviews while making breakfast.
That's such a creative approach to language learning. It reminds me of how professional athletes use visualization techniques in their training.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. The same study found that learners who combined these micro immersion techniques with technology showed a 65% improvement in speaking fluency over 6 months. Let's pause and think about this. What are 3 ways you could create your own English-only zone in your daily routine?
Those statistics are compelling, though I imagine maintaining motivation must be challenging when you're learning in isolation.
That's exactly why the most successful learners develop what researchers call accountability anchors. A fascinating case study from Japan showed that students who created social consequences for their learning, like having to post daily English content on social media, were 73% more likely to maintain their study habits.
Speaking of social aspects, how do successful learners handle the lack of conversation partners?
So here's something surprising. A 2022 study found that learners who used AI language partners for just 15 minutes daily showed similar progress to those who had regular human conversation partners. But, and this is crucial, they had to combine this with other techniques. Let's think about this. What would be your ideal combination of learning methods? Take a moment.
That's remarkable. It really shows how technology is transforming the language learning landscape.
And you know what's particularly fascinating? The most effective learners don't just use technology, they hack it. Data shows that students who customize their digital environments, changing phone settings to English, following English content creators in their interest areas, joining online communities progressed 45% faster than those who relied solely on traditional study methods.
That makes me think about the psychological aspects of language learning. How do successful learners overcome the mental barriers?
Well, this is where the research gets really interesting. A study from the University of Barcelona found that learners who adopted what they call a growth mindset approach, viewing mistakes as learning opportunities rather than failures, showed 52% better retention rates in their language programs. They actually tracked their mistakes in what they called progress journals.
That's such a powerful reframing of the learning process. It turns what could be discouraging into something constructive.
Exactly, and here's the really crucial finding. Learners who combined this positive mindset with structured practice showed an 83% improvement in their confidence levels. They used something called the 30-70 rule, spending 30% of their time in their comfort zone and 70% pushing their boundaries.
And that's fascinating. How do they measure that ratio in practical terms?
The researchers developed this brilliant system where learners would rate their activities on a comfort scale from 1G, 10. They found that maintaining this 30-70 balance led to optimal progress without burnout. For instance, watching English movies with subtitles might be a 3, while trying to explain a complex topic in English might be an 8.
That's such a practical way to approach it. It makes the learning process more manageable and measurable.
And as we wrap up, here's what I find most encouraging. The data shows that consistent, small efforts compound dramatically over time. Learners who practiced just 20 minutes daily outperformed those who did marathon sessions once a week by a factor of 3.
That really drives home the point that becoming fluent in English isn't about where you are, but rather about the systems you put in place.
Exactly. It's about creating your own English-speaking world, one small habit at a time, and trusting in the power of consistent practice. The research is clear: your geography doesn't determine your success, your methodology does.